if we press F4 and we have a look at the model shaded like this, what we're going to notice is that there's this harsh line here, and there are ways in which we can remove these and make them look nicer. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a concept called smoothing groups. So if I were to create a sphere, we can see this, chuck a material on it, looks very smooth. Even if I put this down to 8, we can see it's not very round, but it looks smooth around here. If I turn off smoothing groups, we can actually see the polygons that this is made up of. And even if we now go up to 64 on this, we can see that each of these are being smoothed together by something called smoothing groups. Okay, so this is the same concept that's happening on this, that there are certain smoothing groups being applied, that if I click on this mesh here and I go on to the face mode, I select all of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear all smoothing groups, and we can see this is actually what it would look like without any smoothing on it whatsoever. One of the quickest ways to apply smoothing, if we start to see weird things like this, sometimes you might even see things like this, weird errors like that, is to just select your whole model and put on a smooth modifier and click auto smooth, and that a lot of the time will help, but it still looks like this bit, I want this to round off into here. But if I change this threshold, and then if we turn off that, kind of hard to see while it's all fully highlighted. Let's see if we can go into the C mode. There we go. Should see, as we increase this threshold, we can see it pops in and smooths that around, and that looks a lot nicer. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we can do that. We can do that with a smooth modifier. I've just deleted that, but another way is that we can select two faces that we want to smooth together and give it a smoothing group. And now you can see where I selected those two, they smooth together. Okay, and then if I give that one like that, they smooth together. If I select all of these and I give these a smoothing group, they've all smoothed together, but I didn't select these, so that's why it hasn't smoothed them together. All right. So what I'm going to do actually is select all of this, and I'm going to give it an auto smooth. And we saw the threshold for that was 55 degrees. So if I do that, that looks pretty good. And that's another way of doing it. I want to actually now increase the fidelity of this coin. This shouldn't break the unwrap really, but let's see. If I give this a small chamfer here, we can do actually see whether or not we want it to smooth or not. Because if we click smooth entire object, we can see it's going to break our smoothing groups. So sometimes we want this off, and we can apply those smoothing groups again in a little bit. And I'm going to do the same on here, but you'll notice when we have an N-gon, we can't double click the ring, but what we can do is hold down, go on face, select this, and then hold down Control, select edges, and it's going to select all of the edges around. I can chamfer this, click OK. And then again, now if we have a look at it, even though we've added those on, because of the smoothing groups, it hasn't actually smoothed that out. So if I Control A, click auto smooth again, now we can see it's looking much better and much more realistic. So we could even go as far as to put on a turbo smooth onto this, but we start to see some issues with the topology now because of the N-gon that we had in. We'll touch on that down the line. We're not going to do a turbo smooth today. We're going to do something else. So the way that smoothing groups actually work is, if I show you this edit normals, loads of lines are going to come out of our mesh, and I can make the display length a little bit shorter. And what this is when we apply smoothing groups, if I come onto here and I make these different and these different, Okay, this one different, this one different. Okay, now when we look at it, we've got a few broken smoothing groups, and we go to this edit normals, we can see these lines coming out of the vertices. And if I actually start to rotate these, so if I grab this normal, and this is what it's called a normal, kind of like a normal map, which I might have told you about, but I'll cover that in a little bit. Show handles, and I should be able to grab these. So if I click this, there we go. And I start to rotate this around. You're going to see it starts to affect that smoothing. What smoothing groups is doing is just unifying normals, okay? Vertex normals. So if I grab this, start to move it in, but to do that would just take forever. So the best thing to do is to delete this, go back to here, going to select this, we're going to do auto smooth, so it kind of looks quite good. And then there's another modifier called weighted normals. And what we'll see is that just makes it look just a little bit even more better. So it just tightens up. And you see kind of here, it looks a bit soft going around when we focus on this bit. When we turn on weighted normals, this you can see tightens up that edge, and it's doing some clever maths and understanding the sizes of corners and bevels and tightening them up so that it just looks a little bit nicer. So we can change some settings, and that will tweak some stuff as well to snap to the largest face, change the way that the edges look. We can change the blending. Sometimes that will change the way it looks. We can use smoothing groups. I think on this particular model, it won't really matter all that much, but playing around with these might get you different results. This is definitely better than that anyway. Okay, so that's all this tutorial is covering, is just how to get some even better detail out of your 3D mesh.